Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Suburban Proletarian. I am on vacation. We're up at the cabin up here in the North Woods of Maine. You can probably see the lake reflected in the window behind me, and I'm sitting out here on the porch. If it wasn't quite so overcast, I'd be able to see Mount Katahdin out there over the lake. And the border with New Brunswick, Canada is just a hop, skip, and a jump over that way. So we're really in a fairly remote location. And I was hoping to shoot a bunch of videos on vacation and sort of space them out over several days, but my nephew was up here, my sister was up here, my parents, of course, are here. This is their cabin, and we got involved in all sorts of fun family activities, running the four-wheeler, running the boat around, and so here I am on my last day, and I'm going to try to pack several videos in this afternoon. So if it's not the best video I've ever done, excuse me, because I'm trying to kind of hurry through these. So the first video we're going to shoot is the next watch in our lineup of watches that I unboxed last winter. And specifically, this is the Alpina Startimer. This is a mechanical aviation style watch. I haven't been wearing this as much as I have for instance, the Citizen ProMaster Tough, but I have been wearing it quite a bit, and I'm really liking this watch. There's one aspect of this watch that I don't really care for, and I'll go over that in the tabletop. Now, I don't have internet access here, so I'm going to have to read the model number of the watch off the case back. Please bear with me. So specifically, this is the Alpina AL-525NN4TS6. That's a mouthful. Alpina is an old brand name. They've been around actually since around the end of the 19th century. I think the Alpina brand name itself and the logo dates from 1902. Today they are a sub-brand of Frederick Constant, which is a much newer Swiss brand dating back only to the 1980s. And just recently, I think in the last 2 or 3 years, Frederick Constant got bought out by Citizen Watch Group in Japan. So there's a whole multiple layers of ownership. But Alpina is an old line brand. They've been around for a very long time. They make really nice watches. Frederick Constant is a bit controversial, but one thing's for sure, they have a very they pay very close attention to detail when it comes to fit and finish of their watches. Everything they make is beautifully manufactured, and everything about this watch is pretty nice. So why don't we turn this around onto the tabletop and take a closer look at the Alpina Startimer. All right, folks, so here is our Alpina Startimer. Again, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't have internet access, but I will throw up the model number down below because I don't feel like reading it off the case back again, and it's a hell of a mouthful. But this is one of the automatic mechanical models. There are some quartz Startimers as well, which are a bit less expensive, but this was the very least expensive mechanical model I could find. I believe the MSRP is something like $800, but I didn't pay anywhere near that. If you look at my last review, I think I posted there how much I paid. It was about $200 and maybe $225. Again, Alpina is an old line Swiss brand. Some people think they go a little bit crazy with the branding. We've got the Alpina triangle up at the 12 o'clock. We've got the Alpina triangle over the Alpina name. We've got the Alpina triangle on the counterweight end of the seconds hand, but I don't think it's too much. I like it. I don't think it's too dreadfully over the top. Oh, and of course there's also the Alpina triangle on the end of the crown. We've got this sort of cone, truncated cone. I guess this is called a cupcake style crown, sort of reminiscent. A lot of these aviation style or Flieger style watches will have an onion crown. This is a slight variation thereon, and of course it would be very easy for you to manipulate this crown with gloves on or something. That's why it has this oversized design. The watch features Sellita's SW200 movement, essentially the same thing as the ETA 2824-2. I think Sellita started off as an ETA assembler and started making their own movements when ETA's patents ran out. So a good quality Swiss movement. I think they have a fairly good reputation. Most people say you don't want to hand wind the SW200 too much, and I generally don't. I'll give it 1 or 2 turns just to get the movement started running, and then I allow the auto winding rotor to do the rest of the work. We do have a date window here, which is not the most legible one I've ever seen, but at least the date is on a black background to match the black dial, and there's no goofy frame around the date window, so it's not too obtrusive. And I do actually like having a date on my watch. I also like watches that don't have a date, but I'm pretty easy to please. The SW200 is an automatic, so it says automatic there. It says 100 meters or 330 feet to indicate water resistance, and this is in fact a screw down crown. I wouldn't be surprised if this watch was actually more water resistant than 100 meters, but anyway, it's certainly going to be safe to go swimming. Not exactly a diving watch. I'm not going to go scuba diving or anything like that while wearing the watch. Now, if you took note of the model number down below, you'll notice when you go to Alpina's website, it describes this dial as a blue. And I think this dial is sort of a charcoal gray. I haven't been able to notice blue in any sort of level of light on the dial. Now, there sometimes is a bit of a blue cast on the sapphire, the domed sapphire crystal, due to the anti-reflective coating on there. But as far as the dial being blue, I do not see that. The case, the bracelet, the case back are all PVD plated in a sort of titanium color. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say what the actual plating is, because I tend to get in trouble when I do that. But it's definitely titanium colored. It's not as dark as some other gray PVD coated watches I've seen, but it's a fairly dark plating. But in some of the photos it looks downright black, and it's definitely not that. I've been wearing this watch quite a bit. It's held up fairly well. I haven't developed any major scratches on it, so whatever this plating whatever the plating is apparently quite hard. Oh, we've got another Alpina triangle there on the deployant clasp. Now, as far as I'm concerned, these Flieger style watches, I mean, obviously this is inspired by watches like the IWC Big Pilot and some of the other Bay-Ohren style watches that the German Luftwaffe used and other air forces used back during World War II. It's got that large diameter. Unfortunately, again, I'm here in the middle of nowhere. I don't remember what the diameter of this case is. I think it's 44 millimeters. I'm pretty sure the lug width is 22 millimeters. What it is over the lugs, I can't remember. And if I recall correctly, I think it was just about 12 millimeters from the front of the crystal to the back of the case back. The case back is pretty nicely executed. We've got, again, these Alpina mountains. We've got some pertinent information around the perimeter. And in keeping with its aviation style, we've got a jet fighter on there, which is sort of meant to be reminiscent of the Alpina triangle. Again, yeah, I guess Alpina does kind of go crazy with branding, but again, I like it. I like the Alpina logo, and I like the Alpina name, so it doesn't bother me. The only thing about this watch that really does bother me is this bracelet. The overall fit and finish of the watch is right up to the standards that I would expect from a Frederick Constant product.
perfect fit and finish, perfect brushing, perfect polishing. The dial is simple but beautifully executed. This bracelet, on the other hand, I can't put my finger on it. I can't say there's anything wrong with it, but it just feels cheaper than the rest of the watch. The case, the movement, the dial, they seem to be of a higher grade than this bracelet. I think this bracelet is some sort of a, well, first of all, I don't believe this is made in Geneva. This looks like a Chinese manufactured bracelet, probably a catalog item. Obviously, Alpina did have their logo added to it, but the feel of the clasp is kind of crunchy. And in fact, when I first got the watch, I was having trouble getting it to release reliably. As a matter of fact, one time I really had a hard time getting it off my wrist. I had to enlist my wife's help to get the clasp undone, to get it off my wrist. And I don't think that's acceptable in a watch that's pushing $1,000. I mean, in other respects, the bracelet is pretty good. It's all solid link construction. This deployant clasp is all milled. There's no stamped sheet metal here. It does have all, solid end links as far as I'm aware. Yes, those do appear to be solid end links. I just don't feel like these Flieger style watches should be on a metal bracelet. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you would like it on the bracelet. And usually it's more expensive with the bracelet. I bought it with the bracelet because it was actually the least expensive I could find. But I think that this watch belongs on a brown leather strap. And because of that, I'm going to be reviewing a brown leather strap and installing it on this watch in my next video. Overall, the watch itself has held up very nicely. I love the look of it. I've gotten some nice comments on it from strangers. This is definitely a keeper. It certainly represents a much better value than, in my opinion, something like the IWC Big Pilot, which is thousands and thousands of dollars. For a Swiss Flieger, I think this is really just about as good as you can do as far as bang for your buck. So I guess that's all I really have to say about it. You'll see it again in the next video when we install a leather strap on this watch. So let's go wrap this up.
So overall, I couldn't be much more impressed with the watch itself. It's holding up very nicely. The mechanical movement has been relatively accurate. I've been gaining about 7 or 8 seconds per day, so that's been pretty acceptable. The fit and the finish of the watch itself and the case back is just beautiful. I am, again, slightly disappointed with the function of the bracelet. And really, this watch shouldn't be on a bracelet anyway. The reason I bought it on the bracelet, and it normally costs more than it would on a strap to get it on the bracelet, but the reason I bought this particular watch was it was the cheapest version of the Alpina Startimer mechanical that I could get. And so we are going to be adding a leather strap to this watch, which is pretty much what it should have been mounted on in the first place. And I have bought already a brand new leather strap. I got this one off of Amazon. It's a typical made in China. It cost me about $15, but just as typically for these cheap Chinese leather straps, it is really, really nice. So in our next video, we're going to go ahead and mount this watch on this strap and take a look at how that looks. So I'm going to get this video edited and I'm going to produce the next one. And as soon as I do that, I hope to see each of you here then. Later, guys.